we always have. When we go live, we want you to be the co-host. Why? Because somebody needs to hear your message. Somebody needs to hear what you've gone through, because you never know who you're helping. Like Rochelle the Conqueror, who just was on the IG Live, was saying, there are people who want you to be better than them. There are people out here who want you to shine. There are people out here who want you to grow. And that's why we do the IG Live, so you can learn something you didn't know. You know, Miss Rochelle the Conqueror, she was saying she's the first Black-owned HVAC company in her town of St. Louis. You know, St. Louis ain't small. It's a big city. So that means there was a lot of people who had ideas who never followed through. And she was not scared to do it. Oh, we have another one person coming up. Hello. Hello, hello. What she says? Sucked. Hey.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm great.
That's
How
all
are
right.
you doing?
I saw your thing pop up and I was like, that sounds really cool.
Yes. Thank you. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your journey, what you do.
Yeah. So my name's Louise. I am from Australia. I'm obviously white. I'm not black.
It don't matter. It don't matter. Race ain't a thing here, girl. Come on.
That's
Tell your
right.
story.
Yeah, so I'm a tradeswomen empowerment coach. So I work with tradeswomen to work through anxiety, overthinking, all those lovely things that happen in our brains that we think happens to no one else. Um,
That's
I
a good thing right there. Because like we were saying earlier, it starts with the mindset. You have to start
mhm,
with the mindset.
yeah, it sure
How long
does.
have you been doing that, and what made you do it? What is your why?
What is my why? So I've been doing it for a year now, but been helping tradesmen for a long time. I started as a mechanic 10 years ago, actually. So I'm a heavy vehicle mechanic by trade.
Okay,
Um,
it's this. Yes, this. Good.
I started when I was 15, actually. So I left school and went straight into it. I was so young. Yeah, I thought, when you're like a teenager and you think you know everything, but then you actually look back and you're like, I did not know nothing.
But you know what? You just had a little faith in yourself. That's
Yeah,
sometimes it
that's
starts
it.
with that.
It definitely,
Um,
I think like that kind of confidence like is what really got me through is just like I actually know what I'm doing. And then looking back I'm like, well, thinking I knew what I was doing got me through, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
but you know, but sometimes as women, we'll second guess ourselves a lot. Like you said before, like it's a mental game. What do you think is the biggest hindrance for women in construction when they're
I think
trying?
there's external and internal things. And I think like the biggest internal thing, I know the external things get spoken about so much, but the internal thing is sometimes we talk ourselves out of doing things. We're just like, oh no, like, nah, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. Like
Yeah,
I've never
then you
done it
want to
before.
apply for a
Perfect.
job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfectionism. You want to be perfect at every one of those job criterias. And if you maybe 90% at one of them, then you're not going to put yourself out there because you're like, I need to be absolutely amazing at everything. Otherwise, it's not worth it.
And especially as women, sometimes I feel like we overanalyze ourselves more than we need to. A man will
Yeah,
apply for a job that paid 500K. Why? Because he's like, it looks fun. But we'll be like,
yeah.
I don't know. Will it balance out with my life? Will this work for this? Like,
Can I do
how do you,
it?
yeah. What do you think? Like, if you had to speak a word of influence into a woman right now who was afraid to apply for something, what would you tell them? Like, what would your mantra be for them?
Yeah, I think it's like if you apply and you fail, then you learn. But if you don't apply, then you don't learn nothing.
Mm. Big facts, because failure is scary. Let's be for real. Even going live, it's scary for a lot of people. I know
Oh my
people who
God.
have anxiety who won't go on, who be like,
Like
I'm not gonna
three
do it.
years ago, I think like 3 years ago it would have been, I couldn't even record myself speaking. If I did a speaking gig, I would record it and I couldn't watch it over. I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice. And I'm like, no one's going to want to listen to my voice. It's so annoying.
But you know, there's that self-talk. You try to talk yourself out of it, you know? How do you
Mm.
feel like you're building your legacy or your name in the industry?
I think it's just by doing those little things that actually, hey, that actually make a difference for people. Like, I don't really give a shit about like people knowing my name, but if another tradeswoman is like, Yeah, like I was going through hell and Louise was there for me. Like
That's good. It's
that's
the
it. That's the
teamwork.
legacy.
Sometimes it's the camaraderie. You just have to speak a little faith into people, and they don't even realize that. With your coaching, what do you feel is the common thing that happens a lot? Besides the failure part of women being afraid to fail, what is a common hindrance for success?
I think we try and we think we know what other people are thinking, and then we base our actions off that. But realistically, we can't read minds. Like a lot of the
Mm.
times we're like, oh, our supervisor thinks I'm so shit because I made this mistake like 6 months ago. And like realistically, he's probably like, if he's single, like it's a little bit rough, but if he's single, he's probably thinking about the next time he's going to get laid. And, you know, if he's married with kids, he's probably thinking that he's shit, I'm not getting laid. He's not thinking about the mistake that you made 3 years ago.
Exactly. Someone asked, "What's the name of your company and what does it do?" 'Cause I know you said it
Yeah,
earlier. Maybe they didn't catch it.
yeah, so I'm like just self-named. So Louise Azzopardi. Well, my company name is Louise Azzopardi Training and Development Solutions. But if you follow me on IG, then all my information and stuff is always up there. But pretty much for tradeswomen, and even I've had a few tradesmen clients because our men are also anxious.
Yeah. How do you deal
But
with anxiety though? And like you said, you help people with their anxiety, especially with high stress job like construction.
yeah.
How would you
And
say
like high
someone manages
performance
it?
anxiety, I think like high functioning anxiety is like something that isn't really spoken about too much because it looks like you're doing heaps of shit and you're fine.
Can you explain high function just a little bit for people who don't know?
Yeah. So high functioning anxiety is pretty much where you feel anxious, so you want to do more and you successfully do more. Like you're always like on different boards, you're in different committees, you're on all the projects, you do all the posting. But then as soon as you get out of that limelight or out of actually taking action, then you're a total wreck.
Yeah, because
And
you're
you're like,
afraid that you're.
if you're not producing something, you feel useless. You're like, if I'm not producing, then I'm worthless.
And that's something people got to take out their mind. Sometimes it's okay to take a break. You don't have
Yeah.
to be the superhero. You don't like. I be telling my friend, I ain't Captain Save-A-Ho. Sometimes you gotta take your cape off. You can't feel like you're gonna save everybody. You know what I mean? You can't save everybody in your job site. You can't save everybody in your family. You just gotta save yourself and your mental well-being. You know.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
One of the questions. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think even once you know that you're the one who's in control of what you feel and what you do, it's so much easier to help people see that. Like I had some stuff going on in my family and my brother and my sister were really taking it onto them to make someone else feel better. And I'm like, guys, literally all we can do is love them. And they were like, what? Mind blown. I'm like, you can't make them do something. You can't do something for them. You can literally say, I'm here for you, but you have to ask for it. You like,
You gotta
yeah,
say it. And someone just put, I was being on bed rest. That's the thing too. We don't realize anxiety can make you sick. It can make you physically sick or throw up. I've had a job interview before. I threw up before the interview because I was psyching myself up. And I was like, all right, where's my gum? Now I gotta go to the interview, because you don't
yeah,
even realize mentally you're putting so much on yourself and it stops you from your blessing.
yeah, that's it.
Um,
And I worked myself sick once. I like proper like 4 months of full-time work. I couldn't even like I was working as a mechanic. I was doing some of this ambassador, like tradeswoman ambassador type work. I was helping people. I had a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs and then volunteering. And I physically it felt like I was moving through water. Like I just couldn't physically move myself. And I was so run down and I was just like tired walking up steps. And I was like, it was just part of that high functioning anxiety, doing until I physically, your body's like, no, you can't move anymore.
what would be a precursor or some people to look out to realize if they're having anxiety? You know what I mean?
I
Because
think,
people put the title, but they don't know what it is.
yeah. So I think it's just like self-doubt or telling yourself things that aren't actually facts.
Mm,
So like kind of saying like things that you don't have any proof of, like, oh yeah, if I do this, then everyone's going to hate me. If I don't do this well, then, I'm going to lose my job. If I don't do this
that's a big
100%
one.
perfect. Yeah,
That's a
the
big
job
one.
thing is like, shit, like if I don't like finish this project 3 weeks early, then I'm going to get sacked. And it's like, realistically, most projects go 3 weeks over. You're not going to get sacked if you finish it on
Yeah.
time.
And honestly, if you do get sacked, that means that job wasn't appreciating you to begin with. Like, let's be for
No,
real.
that's
Because if
it.
one mistake could get you sacked from a job, fill out an application for something else. It's all right.
Yeah,
It's
that's
okay.
it.
Even something we said in the earlier guest was being okay with failure. How do you feel? How do you help people become okay with failure? Or how do you deal with failure yourself?
Yeah, I think it's just really looking at what is failure, because failure is an opinion to everyone has a different view on what failure actually is, a different definition for themselves. But then it's really like, what is a failure? Like for me, a failure is not actually taking any action.
Mm.
And in that sense, if you're taking an action towards something that you want, none of it is failure.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
that's the
just,
thing though. People won't even try sometimes. That's the
yeah.
real failure. Not even betting on yourself. You believe in
And
everything in the world. You believe on everything you see on Instagram, but you don't believe in yourself. That's a big
that's it.
failure.
I think it's like talking through it as well. Like, you know, everyone goes, okay, if I try this and it fails, then, you know, the world's gonna end. And that's how your body feels. Like, oh shit. Like,
You shut
anxiety is pretty much,
down. You feel depressed. Yep.
yeah, because our body is made to protect us and our brain is still our primitive brain. So, you know, when we feel anxious, our brain is like, well, a tiger's gonna eat us.
Yep.
And then that's how we feel. We're like, shit, we need to get out of here ASAP because we are gonna die. But then it's just, okay, like, all right, cool. You do, let's say, you know, you do your first service on a car on your own. And you're like, oh shit, you know, if I don't put enough oil in it, then the engine's gonna blow up and the whole world is gonna end and no one's ever gonna hire me again. But it's like, okay, if you don't put enough oil in the engine, then, you know, engines can run a long time without oil, a surprisingly long time without oil. And you just realize, and then you put more oil in, and you know what? You still have your job. And, you
Yeah.
know, like just actually running through that scenario of like, you know what? If the engine didn't blow up, what's going to happen? You know, the customer probably wanted to change the engine anyway. It might have been old. You might have been doing them a
Yeah.
favor. Like,
How do you, like, one of the questions, I want to be my own kind of beauty. How do you find your beauty and your strength in what you're doing now? Like, how do you find it, especially when you're losing it? Because you're doing so much. How do you find it?
I think it's just really working out what beauty is to you and then going with that. Like for me, when I'm working on the tools, I'm dirty, I'm greasy, but I wear hot pink boots. And every time I look down on my feet, I'm like, hell yeah. Like I am fucking, like I have grease and oil and my hair's like frizzy on one side. And I'm like, no, I look fucking amazing. Look at these boots.
Yeah. You know what it is? Finding your sense of value is very important. You know what I mean? A lot of times in construction, medical field, or whatever, we always feel like we're not up to par to what's good. We're not up to par what standard is good. Like, what would you recommend someone who's going through a moment right now of self-doubt? What words would you tell them to help pump them out of it?
I think like one thing that's a general statement for that is you're out there doing it. Someone is looking up to you.
Hmm.
A statement that really got me was like, a sixth grader looks like an expert to a first grader.
Yeah, that's a good point right there.
Yeah,
That's
and I think
great.
that's what really, like, when I was thinking, oh, do I want to become a coach? And in my mind, like, coaches were like, you know, people who had been CEOs that coach other CEOs. And I had this idea in my head, and then I heard someone say that statement, like, to a first grader, a sixth grader is an expert. And I'm like, I'm not trying to coach, you know, business executives. I'm trying to coach my people, the people who are at the level before I was, like the people who are apprentices, the people who are tradeswomen who don't know what their next step is. Like I've gone through that process and I can help them with that process. And I'm an expert at what I know right now. And a lot of times self-doubt creeps in when you think you should be at someone. A lot of the times as like trades, like people in male dominated spaces, we look at people who have like 30 years plus experience than us and we're like, we're not that good. And I'm like, duh, of
Yep.
course you're not that good. They've got 30 years on you.
They got 30 years, but they don't have the umph that you have. That's what something you need to take away. A person can have 30 years, but the first 15, they were in the same role for the same 15 years of their life, you know?
Yeah,
And I
that's
feel
it.
like now it's more normal to be like, all right, one week I'm a mechanic, next week I might be a civil engineer. Who knows? You know what I mean? You
Who
just want to
knows?
try something different. Do you
Yeah.
feel like it's when you're in your space, do you feel afraid to try new things or do you feel like you just keep doing the same?
I think I just got to check, like, one thing that I like to do is check in with myself. I'm like, do I feel scared and excited? or do I feel scared and dread? If I'm scared and
Mm.
excited, then I'm like, fuck yeah, like this is gonna be like, there's gonna be some anxiety here, but we're gonna feel amazing. But if it's scared and dread, I'm like, why am I taking these actions? Who is
Mm.
this what I want or is this what someone else wants for me? And like running it through that, if I know that I'm, you know what, I'm scared and I'm excited because this is something that I want, I can still do it if I'm scared.
How do you differentiate? Like, you know what I mean? Scared and excited, kind of close to similar feelings. Like, how do you differentiate? Do you make like a pros and cons list, or do you just really sit down by yourself? Like, how would you do it? How do you do it?
I run it through a filter of what I want for like my future goals. So like my kind of thing is I run kind of every opportunity through, okay, I want to help tradeswomen with their mental health and all of the inner stuff. Will this opportunity align to that goal? And
Alignment,
it's
that's
like,
a great part.
yeah, well, this is going to get me there. But if it's like, okay, this opportunity is going to help me become a better mechanic, or like, or it's going to lead me on the path of an engineer, then you know what, it's awesome, but it's not in line with the goal that I'm going towards right now.
That's a great point, finding alignment and just finding what works for you. Because you said you started at 15 being a mechanic. What did your family say? Did they call you crazy? Did they say this isn't what it needs to be? What did they say to you?
They were like, for me, it was just a natural progression because I was always riding and racing motorbikes. My parents are on a farm, we grow fruit and veggies, and it was just like the norm, like for me. But when it really hit me that I was different was when I started like looking at entering into the workforce, and then other people who weren't my family and friends who didn't know me and know what I'm doing, um, they're the ones that were the ones that are like, what are you
Was
doing?
it
And everyone's like, duh, of course she's going to be a mechanic.
was it hard to realize you were different, or was it hard being comfortable being different?
I think it took a few years because I definitely know that I went through that phase where I was like, what is feminism? What is the point of feminism? Look, I'm being treated fairly kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then I did go through that kind of feeling of like, I want the girl spot. Like the girl spot is mine. No other women could take this. Like, no one else is as good as me. Like no other women are good as me. And then, you know what? I was probably in that stage for, 2 or 3 years before I really started to, well, grow up physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Um, but then just being able to see, you know what? No, not everyone had the experiences I did when I was a kid. And you know what? I had gone through a bit of sexual harassment and I was like, shit, you know what?
How
This
did
stuff
you
that these feminists are talking about, it's there. It's real.
how
Like,
did you handle sexual harassment with being in your field? Because you know,
at the
let's be
beginning,
real.
not very well.
When you say not very well, what do you mean?
Yeah, at the
Spazzing?
beginning, like when I was younger, like I would laugh it off. I'd be like, "Oh, they're picking on me. That means I'm included."
Mm.
And like then when you're driving in your car home and you're like crying every night, then you're like, "This is probably not good."
Yeah. Someone asked, do you experience sexism, like in your
Pardon?
field? Do you experience sexism? You know, sexual harassment is one thing, but sexism is like, I'm not hiring her. She's a chick. She's gonna do the little
Yeah,
candy stuff in the
I
back.
have. I have experienced outright sexism. I've one place that I went and I would work on their machines on their site. They would always be like, "Oh, Louise, clean up. You're the woman. Oh, Louise, go out to
Mm.
this farm. This farm is single. Like he can marry you and take you off our hands.
Oh
Or
my
you should go
gosh.
out and service this person." And I was
They're
like,
trying to marry you off, oh
"Oh."
Lord.
So yeah, so I'm second generation Australian. Like my grandparents immigrated from Malta, and where I live is a really kind of it's a lot of Maltese. It's a Maltese community in Australia. There's lots of
Hmm.
little communities of nationalities around here. So in that community and in that tradition, it is like women get married young, and we a lot of women that are like my mum's generation, they never worked. They got married and had kids, and then it was kind of like, why aren't you doing that? And there's been a few, like, there's a fair few of us in my generation that have kind of stepped out of that traditional sense of doing that. But with the older generation, it kind of, and especially, usually they're fine, but then you get, every now and then you get those few dickheads who are like, this is how it's going to be forever.
Did you experience grief from your family from not taking the traditional steps? Like
No, I think a lot of it was mostly the pressure I put on myself.
Mm.
because I felt like, oh shit, I'm going to disappoint my parents if I don't do that. But then they never outrightly said anything.
Yeah, that's the thing though. We be self-talking ourselves. And even so, what if you disappoint people? That's their vision for your life. That ain't your vision for your life. That's something I had to learn too myself. To be like, well, it's nice to do construction and all, but when you gonna give me some grandkids? I'm like, oh my God. I was just telling you about a day at work, and you asking me about grandkids. Like, how does this work? How
I
does
can
this
buy you a
marry?
puppy.
Yeah, I got a fish, a turtle, maybe. Puppy might be too much responsibility for me right now. I don't know if I can take that on just yet.
I love it. I'm like,
Uh,
I can barely look after myself. How am I going to look after another human?
exactly. Give me time. Let me at least figure out what I want. One week I want to be a singer. One week I want to be an actress. One week I want to do construction. But do you feel like sometimes you're put into a box because of what you do? You know what I mean? Like being a mechanic, do you feel like you can't do different things or try different ventures without getting the side eye?
I think like the culture of the industry is definitely like that. It's kind of like, oh, you're bettering yourself. You're trying to do extra courses. Like, why are you doing that? And I'm like,
Mhm.
because I want to be better for myself. But like a lot of the culture is that kind of, you're in this and, you're just going to be a mechanic kind of forever. And if you're like trying to do extra stuff, then you're trying to impress someone or something. You can't, a
You
lot of
can't
the
just
times
do
the
it for
mentality is you
yourself.
can't do it for yourself.
How do you, because have you ever had a moment where you doubted yourself, honestly, you know what I mean? Or you've cried, but like, why am I doing this? And how did you get out of that?
Yeah, so it's just kind of like for me, I imagine just, oh, what if I'm just a mechanic? Like, and there's nothing wrong with people who want to be mechanics forever, not saying that. But for me, I'm like, oh, why do I want to do all this extra stuff? What if I just was like a mechanic forever? And then I'd be like, Louise, you'd hate that. You get so bored.
You have to be honest with yourself of what you really want sometimes. We just want what looks good on paper or what looks good to everybody else. Like, oh, Louise has just been a mechanic. That's it, but they would be like, why is she speaking at events? Who does she think she is? How did you have to deal with haters in your squad or like people with, my friend uses this friend, some people are dumpster friends. They'll drop their negative stuff on you or they'll drop their hate on you. Did you have to deal with that?
Yeah, I did have a few like that, but I was really lucky that I realized it fairly quickly. Like the thing that hurts the most, I think not even like at a friendship level, I kind of was okay with dumping those dumpster friends pretty quickly. But when it was someone in the industry, like I had one or two supervisors that I really looked up to, like as a young mechanic and seeing them, I looked up to them as, leaders in the industry, as, people I wanted to be like. But then when they started saying shit about like, oh, Louise, you're being distracted by all this public speaking and, why are you doing that for? I was like, I look up to you. I'm so
Yeah.
confused now.
I've had that too. There was a thing in my job I was trying to get, and it was like, you're doing too much in your outside work, so you wouldn't be good for fit for this role. And I'm like, how do you even know what I'm doing in my outside work? I didn't tell you. Some people are haters of growth. That's something we have to realize because you are taking leaps and bounds that they never even thought was possible. You know,
Yeah.
how do you get rid of the self doubt, or when they say something, how do you confront them, or did you confront them?
I did a mix of confronting and not confronting, but I think I actually commented on another girl's post that posted on Facebook last night actually. But it's more like, how does that make you feel, and how long are you gonna hold on to that comment? Like they're just releasing words. Like there's no facts behind anything that they say. But if you're gonna play that on repeat in your head, then it's gonna make you feel like shit more than just in that
Mm,
moment. So I think
mm.
like you can respond or not respond. That person, you can't control what that person says or does or whatever. But
And
if
some
you're
people
thinking
just
about it
aren't
all the
on your level.
time,
Some people
yeah.
aren't your level. You just gotta leave them where you gotta leave them in the back.
With older guys, one thought that kind of I like to kind of when I'm in a situation like that, rather than respond or not respond, I like to have a little giggle to myself. So if they're an older person, this is kind of a bit of a dark thought, but if they're an older male, I'm like, you're probably going to die before I change your mind anyway. Uh, and if they're a younger guy,
Factually,
yeah, I'm
I'm
like,
doing more of my.
gonna anyways, but if they're a younger guy and they're saying shit to me, nothing against people who actually have a micro penis, but I like to imagine them with a micro penis. It gives me a bit of a giggle, and it like allows me to.
That's the comment of the day right there.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what? Some people, they can't take your shine. Like you said, they got a micro. It's an ego thing, you know? There's big dick, little dick. It's kind of like, you know, because a lot of men on site, they want to be like an alpha male or whatever, but I'm not trying to take your spot. I'm not trying to be an alpha female out here or all that. I'm just trying to do the best version of myself. That's really what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
How do you put the best version of yourself out every day? Like,
I think it's recognizing that the best version of myself is probably not going to be out every moment of the day. And when it's not, and that's okay. It allows me, if I'm like being kind to myself when I'm not the best version of myself, it allows the best version of myself to come up more often because it's not being bullied away.
yeah, be kind to yourself. Like you said earlier, we're so, especially as women, we're already nitpicky for other women. So imagine what we do for ourselves, you know? You look, I didn't put that screw properly. Shame on me, you know? It is horrible. Yeah. What do you feel is especially with what you're doing with your consulting work, what do you feel is the most common self-sabotage for people?
That I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough thing. So how do you tell them to fix it or end it?
Well, I think it's looking at the facts of it. So like if someone told me that I just believe that I'm not good enough, you go through, has anyone ever said that to you? What if they have, what does that person mean to you? What grounds do they have to say that to you? All right, let's write down all the ways that, all the things that you've done. Let's write down all the ways that you are good enough. Okay, you know, and a lot of the times the thought I'm not good enough comes from perfectionism and that we're not, and it's kind of like just talking through it. Like I would spend an hour talking to someone and just questioning when they come up with a story. They're like, oh, at this moment, at this point in time, this happened. I'm like, cool. So what did you make that mean about yourself? And just going through it like that. But if someone wanted some quick actions of thinking that they're not good enough, write down all the ways that you are good enough. If someone ever told you that you're not good enough, who the hell are they? Do they actually matter in your career? And you know what? It's remembering that, like writing down a list of why you are enough and what you've done to get to where you are today. And, you know, if you're a mechanic, stick it in your toolbox, put it as your background on your phone, and just remember that. Remind yourself of that.
We got another great question. How do you find peace in your job?
In my job, I think it's realizing that, this is like another thing, it all comes back to yourself. Like, all right, and listening when you're not peaceful. When you're not peaceful in your job, what is it telling you? Are you meant to be there? Is there something that you're supposed to change? Is this telling you that you're not on the right path? Because every time that I haven't felt peace in my job and I've tried to change it, I'm like, wait a second, I don't even want to be doing this shit anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll start filling out applications, sending my resume out. Because, you know, people don't realize if you're having mental anguish every day at work, that's how people get dementia later in life. That's how they get Alzheimer's, because they're mentally not happy. You're always mentally going crazy in your brain, like, this is not for me. Sometimes you got to listen to that little voice in your head. This is not for me, you know?
That's it. Like your body tells you things, and like your feelings. I like to go through as well. So I have a condition called PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So it's like PMS on steroids. Like 2 weeks before my period, my brain is just like, sometimes it's just not there at all.
I feel you. I'd be emotional. You know, yeah. And that's the thing too. Sometimes when working in a male-dominated field, you're okay to have your emotions. There's gonna be moments you want to cry at work. If you do, just go in the bathroom, go in the corner, cry by yourself. You know what I mean? Just handle it, and you have to deal with it. How would you say someone handle an emotional moment at work?
I think it's just like having something that calms you down. So a lot of the times it might be, for me, it's something quick is like drinking cold water, because then you can really focus it and use it as a form of mindfulness of bringing yourself back to the moment. Going to the bathroom, splashing your face with water is all nice quick fixes. But if you're really looking for the deeper root, you got to think, is this emotion reasonable or unreasonable? And you have to make that judgment for yourself, because sometimes if you decide that if it's an unreasonable emotion, then there might be a mental health issue there where you can actually take a legitimate medical path for.
Yeah.
But if you think your emotion is reasonable, like your anger response to someone's comment, then you're like, okay, I'm fucking pissed about what this guy said. what are you going to do about it?
Because sometimes people be disrespectful and they be like, oh, you're just being emotional. Like, no, the fuck, I'm not. You mean disrespectful. You have to distinguish where your line is, too. You have to realize you can't let people be habitual line crossers in that regard, especially with your mental health, especially with that. How do you, when you do get emotional at work and somebody does say something, how do you like regroup? You said you'll go splash water in your face. And do you come back and talk to them about it? Or do you feel like I don't need to explain it?
I think it depends on who it is, and there's so many variables in the situation. But if it's someone that you're close to, like you do have a friendship with, and you feel like,
You can
pulling
express
aside, being like,
yourself.
"Hey, mate, that was not great. Like that was over the line." But then maybe if it's like a supervisor that you don't have a good relationship with, or you don't know very well, then sometimes it's like, cool, like note it down. If it's a more formal thing, like it's not a friendship thing, it's like a leadership thing. Sometimes it's good to take notes of all the instances that it's happened,
Yeah.
and then the facts of the situation, because then that helps you if you do want to take the path of reporting it, or even having a conversation, a more like formal conversation with the person, being like, hey, like I just wanted to have a sit and like a chat with you about some stuff that's been going on. Like I didn't really appreciate it on this day, and this day when you did this. It seems like you do it a lot. I just want to make sure, like, I want to let you know that it's not okay with me. Like, this is what I'd rather you do in those situations. And like, yeah, writing it down, if you're not going to do anything about it straight away is, I think the next step. But if it's a mate kind of thing, and you can be like, hey mate, pull your head in, like that's not cool.
Yeah.
You do that.
And sometimes don't be afraid to speak up, because you only hurt yourself, because then you're going to be sitting like me. I'll be fuming. And then I'm going to call you like, Thursday, 3 p.m. last week, you said something. The person's already gone. They don't even care about it. You've had conversations with them. But you also got to learn to distance yourself. Not everybody at your job is your friend. That's another thing. I think as women, we want to be loved by everybody. You want everybody to think you're the best. They don't got to love you. They got to respect you and know that you're doing a good job. That's really it. They are not your friends. They are not your friends.
One supervisor I had gave me this advice. Like one of my supervisor's leaders gave me some advice, and I was not it didn't feel aligned with me at all. And my supervisor said to me, only allow people to give you advice that you respect. And that was like a game changer with me, because I had so many like old men being like, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And I was like, oh, I need to do all the things. And I'm like, wait a second, I don't admire anything about them. Why would I do what they say?
Exactly. And my favorite phrase is, opinions are like assholes. Everybody got one. So not everybody's opinion is valuable. Not everybody's perception of you is valuable. You know whose perception is worthy of your attention. And especially even with women, we'd be like, this person don't like me. I'm not doing good enough. It's okay if they don't like you. I don't care if you like me, but you're going to respect my workmanship. You be like, Catrina gets on my damn nerves, but the project was finished on time. So she was, you know what I mean? You have to just respect it. How did you get your respect at your job? Was it hard at first to get respect?
I think respect comes really easy once you respect yourself. It comes back to that, like the most common thing we tell ourselves is we're not good enough. And when we're believing we're not good enough, it's hard for other people to believe that as well. So when we're like, yep, I'm good enough for this position, you show up, you do a good job, then people are like, yeah, cool.
How do you deal with disrespect then? Like when people aren't giving you your respect and you know you deserve it?
I think it's like, yeah, that thing where you can pull them aside and you can either have a formal conversation with them and be like, okay, what's going on? Because a lot of the times, a lot of people who don't respect you, if you're in a leadership position, had some issue with the previous person in your position. And they might be just, I like to call it workplace baggage. Like we have a lot of relationship baggage and we talk about that. But we have workplace baggage is a thing. You have all your opinions of people in that previous position from previous jobs, and then they dump it on you. And a lot of the time,
got fired 3 times before, they put that on you, their precedent. How do you shake that off then? You know what I mean? Like when they're
realizing that it's not about you.
That's a hard thing though sometimes. Sometimes I have to separate, like, you know what, this person's like, you work with guys. They flipping out sometimes. You realize it ain't about me. His wife is cheating on him. So I gotta let him be right now, you know?
Yeah.
It's not about
And that's where sometimes that micro penis comment, like that thought comes in handy.
Yeah.
And like I
Um,
like the one like sometimes if someone's like you're like he's looking at me funny, he hates me. You're like maybe that's just his face.
yeah, maybe his face is just ugly.
Maybe his face is just
um,
like that.
of course, you have building your legacy. What do you want your legacy to be? Like, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think it's that we can all support each other, like no matter what level we're at. We're all here. We're all living the same life. Like I can support someone who has heaps more experience than me, and I can support someone who's at the beginning. I can support someone who's in a totally different career path, and just be like, yeah, you know, you are worth being here. And having that kind of view for everyone and everyone having that view can make such a difference because so many people feel like they're not worth being around. You're like, no,
And
like I don't
just
know you from a bar of soap, but you have cool hair. Like, it's cool.
yeah, you just gotta say I am worthy. Even self-talk in the morning, even before you go to work, if you have to just look in the mirror and say I am worthy of everything good coming towards me, just live in it. You know, don't be afraid to have it. Somebody else wants to join.
That's
Vixta?
right. Well, I'm gonna go because I was supposed to go somewhere and then I
Oh.
jumped on with you and I was like, this is cool.
But
But thank you for
please tell
inviting me
people your
on.
information, how they can reach you.
Yeah,
Please
so
tell.
if you follow me on Instagram at Louise underscore Azzopardi underscore 1996, I think it'll pop up. And also I have a Facebook community for tradeswomen called Tradeswomen Owning Their Power. The link is in my bio as well. But in there we talk
Repeat it again. I'm sorry. Tradeswomen what?
tradeswomen owning their power.
Okay, tradeswomen owning their power. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
So
doing it
all the
now for
little
you.
concepts that I've spoken about, like with, you know, all the answers to the question, I've got all videos in there so you can search up and whatever you're feeling at the moment, you can jump in and have a look at them and get some help.
That's what's up. Teamwork makes the dream work. I appreciate that. We
Hell yeah.
appreciate you for coming on too. It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Have an
I love
amazing, it's
everything
night
about.
where you are, isn't it?
Huh? What was that?
It's nighttime where you are,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. What time is it there?
12 o'clock, midday.
Oh, dang, yeah. Look at that. We got somebody from across the world. I love it. Thank you so
Hell yeah.
much. We appreciate you greatly.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. I love it. I love the conversation today. I love how people are just coming with their authentic self. I love just how people are being transparent because you know what I mean? Like every day ain't gonna be a great day, but today I'm gonna put my best foot forward just to be the great version of myself and just be a great example of what it is to be who I am. You know, like she was saying earlier, sometimes we have things going on in our head that says, I'm not worthy. You are worthy of everything you love. You are worthy of everything you want. You are worthy of success. You are worthy of greatness. You are worthy of excellence because you are excellent. Sometimes you got to self-talk yourself. And you just got to realize you are an amazing person. You know, we all go through our hiccups. We all go through something in life that will make us second guess ourselves. But that's not what it is. You are better than anything you've experienced. You are better than any trauma you've been through. You are better than anything that, or any naysayer, you are better than anything you would have thought. You know, sometimes even me included, because it's full transparency, I'm like, I shouldn't even do this. I know I'm not going to get it. I know I'm not going to achieve it. You will achieve it. You just have to have faith the size of a mustard seed. I don't know if you ever seen a mustard seed. It's tiny. It's like a little period, a little dot. You just have to have that little bit of doubt, belief in yourself to knock out the doubt, you know? And that's the message for today. I want to be my own type of beauty. You are a beautiful creature. You are divinely made. You are precisely made. From everything, from every wrinkle, every pimple, everything you have was perfectly made. And if you want to change it to be better. But don't change it to be complacent in what other people think is beauty. Find your own beauty. Find your own thing. Building your name and your legacy. Build your legacy. Build who you would want. If there's like she said earlier, to us, to a first grader, a sixth grader is a genius. You have all the skill sets you need. Stop letting people second guess you. Stop letting people put doubt in you. Stop letting the world put doubt in you. You are an invincible creature. Lastly, but not least, what is your why? Today, sit and just think about your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you striving for success? Why are you trying to just be a better version of yourself? Because sometimes you don't take catalog of your why and then you'll just be lost in your path. You will just be jumping here to here to here, not having any sense of what your goal is. Write it down, make a list, make a pros and cons list of what you want. Make a pros and cons list of of your job. Even if you were at a job and you hate the job, figure out the pros and cons. And then you know what? Find a different job if you don't like it. Don't let a job or a title or a position or even your age, your sex, whatever, your sexuality, it don't matter. Don't put limitations on yourself. That was the goal for today, and that's the message today. Be your own kind of beauty. Be your own kind of amazing. Be your own superhero. You are the main character in this movie. Lights, camera, action. Be you, boo-boo. Shine bright. So we're going to leave this on that note. Shine bright. Be your own kind of beautiful. Build your name and your legacy. And what is your why? Find out your why. I know this might be a lot for people just to take in, but just start small. Find out what your why is today. Just have a little faith in yourself. Believe in yourself. If you don't believe in you, trust. I believe in you, boo. You got this. So as always, thank you for joining us. Oh, make sure to check out the website. This amazing shirt, I Heart Tools. You get it? Kind of like the I Heart NYC. That's available on the site, blackwomeninconstruction.com. So make sure you go get one. We have promo code, just because it's you, BFF. You can use the promo code BFF. But make sure to send this live to someone else. Next time you're on live, join us. Join us on live. We always want a co-host. We always want your opinion. We always love your questions. Thank you for the amazing person who've been adding questions. Thank you for the amazing people who joined the live. And just